The small town of Willow Creek was wrapped in silence that morning. Grey clouds hung low, as if the heavens themselves mourned the loss of Linda Crawford's husband, Daniel Crawford. The church bell rang slowly, echoing through the chilly October air. Linda stood near the casket, her black veil trembling slightly as the cold wind brushed past her face. Her children, Ethan, Clara, and Sophia, stood beside her, trying their best to hold back tears. Daniel had been a respected man in Willow Creek, a history teacher, gentle and patient, known for his comforting smile. His death from a sudden heart attack had shocked everyone. Linda couldn't believe how fast everything had changed, from a dinner table filled with laughter just a week ago to a quiet graveyard covered in autumn leaves. After the ceremony, neighbours brought casseroles, hugs, and endless condolences. "He was such a good man," they said. But their words felt like hollow echoes to Linda. She just wanted to be alone. When everyone finally left, she sat in the living room staring at the folded American flag from Daniel's brief time in the military. Something about the way it was folded seemed off, as if it had been rushed. As night fell, she walked into Daniel's study. His old books still smelled like him. Coffee and ink. On his desk was a sealed brown envelope with her name written in his handwriting. Her heart skipped. She opened it slowly. Inside were 3 words. "I'm sorry, Linda." No explanation. No dates. Nothing else. Just those 3 words. Her fingers trembled as she whispered, "Sorry for what, Daniel?" That night, she couldn't sleep. She replayed every memory, every late meeting, every moment he avoided eye contact, every time he said, "I'll explain later." Now, later, would never come. At 12:47 a.m., Linda's phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, but something inside her told her to answer. "Hello," a woman's voice whispered, shaky and emotional. "Is this Mrs. Crawford?" "Yes." "Who is this?" The line went silent for a few seconds. Then the woman said, "I'm sorry for your loss. Daniel was a good man." Linda's throat tightened. "How do you know my husband?" But the woman hung up. Linda tried calling back. No answer. She checked the caller ID. The number was from Denver, hundreds of miles away. Why would someone from Denver call her about Daniel? Unable to sleep, she went back to the study and searched through Daniel's drawers. Bills, lesson plans, an old photo album. But then she found a hidden compartment behind a stack of books. Inside was a small key labeled Storage Unit 17B. Her heart pounded. Storage unit? Daniel never mentioned one. The next morning, after sending the kids to school, she drove to Evergreen Storage, the address printed on the key tag. The manager checked the record. "Yes, ma'am. It's rented under Daniel Crawford." Been paying for years? Years? Linda's knees went weak. What could he have been hiding all that time? The man led her down a narrow hallway lined with metal doors. Her hands shook as she inserted the key into 17B. When the door rolled open, the dim light revealed boxes stacked neatly to the ceiling. And at the center, a framed photo, Daniel smiling with another woman and a little boy. Her breath caught. Oh my God. Linda felt the ground slip beneath her feet. The picture frame nearly fell from her trembling hands. The woman in the photo. She had Daniel's warm eyes and a familiar smile, but Linda didn't know her. The boy looked around 8, holding Daniel's hand proudly. On the back of the photo, Daniel had written, "My reason to keep going. 2017. 2017. The same year Daniel had told Linda he was working weekends for extra income. Her mind raced. She searched through the boxes, each labeled with random letters and numbers. But inside, the truth, unfolded piece by piece. Birthday cards signed, "Love you, Dad." A few drawings, small gifts wrapped in blue paper, and receipts from Denver. Tears blurred her vision. How could you, Daniel? She whispered. That night, she confronted her own reflection in the mirror. Her face looked pale, drained. Do I tell the kids? She asked herself. But how could she? They had just buried their father. How could she destroy what little peace remained? Instead, she picked up the phone and dialed the mysterious number again. This time, the woman answered. Please, Linda said softly. I need to know who you are. A pause. Then the woman replied, My name is Rachel, and Daniel was my husband too. Linda's world shattered. The next morning, Linda drove to Denver, heart pounding like a drum. Rachel had agreed to meet her at a small cafe on Elm Street. When Linda walked in, she immediately spotted her. Mid-30s, soft brown hair, tired eyes. Rachel stood, nervous but calm. You must be Linda. Linda nodded. You said Daniel was your husband. Rachel sighed. He told me he was divorced. We met 8 years ago at a teachers' conference. He said his marriage ended long before Linda felt tears rising but held them back. He lied to both of us. Rachel nodded slowly. He was a good man, but always distant. I never understood why. When he died, his friend from the school called me. That's how I found out he had another family. They sat in silence for a while, both staring at their untouched coffee. Finally, Rachel said, I didn't call to hurt you. I just thought you should know about Noah, our son. He deserves to know who his father really was. Linda looked at her, speechless. The name Noah echoed in her mind, the boy from the photo. That night, driving back home, Linda's emotions collided. Grief, anger, confusion. But beneath it all, a strange calm began to form. If Daniel loved Noah too, she thought, then I can't hate a child for his father's mistakes. Days later, as Linda sorted through Daniel's belongings for the estate lawyer, she found an old wooden drawer locked tight. Car. He looked at Linda and said shyly, Are you Mommy's friend? Linda hesitated before replying softly, Yes, you could say that. As she drove back to Willow Creek later that day, the emotional weight of it all sank deeper. She couldn't hate Noah. He was innocent. But what about her children? How would they react when they learned the truth? At home, her eldest son Ethan noticed her silence. Mum, what's going on? You've been somewhere else lately. Linda looked at him, eyes heavy with guilt. There's something I need to tell you all. About your father. Ethan frowned. What about Dad? Her voice cracked. He had another family. The room went still. Clara covered her mouth in disbelief, Sophia burst into tears, and Ethan just shook his head, backing away slowly. You're lying. I wish I was, Linda whispered. The Crawford home was filled with tension. The air was thick with disbelief and anger. Ethan locked himself in his room for hours, and Clara refused to talk to anyone. Sophia, the youngest, kept asking, Did Daddy still love us? A question Linda had no answer for. By evening, Ethan emerged, his face pale and eyes red. You knew? He said coldly. I didn't, Linda replied. I found out after the funeral. He shook his head. You should have told us right away. Now everything feels like a lie. Linda's heart shattered. I was trying to protect you. Protect us from what? From knowing who our father really was. His words cut deep. That night, Ethan packed a bag. I'm going to stay at Uncle Robert's for a while, he said. I need time to think. Clara yelled. He ruined all of us. Dad's dead, and now we're just stuck with his secrets. Sophia sobbed in her mother's lap, clutching the small photo of Daniel smiling at her 5th birthday. Linda barely slept. Every corner of the house seemed to echo with Daniel's absence and the pain he'd left behind. In the early hours of morning, she sat by the window and whispered, "You said I'd know what to do, Daniel." But I don't. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was Rachel. "Linda, we need to talk. It's about something I found in Daniel's things. Something you should see." The next day, Linda met Rachel again, this time at a downtown bank in Denver. Rachel looked uneasy, holding a key marked with Daniel's initials. "This was in his old suitcase," she said. "I didn't know what it was until now." Together, they approached the bank officer, who led them to a small private room. The officer opened the locker, and both women gasped. Inside were stacks of sealed envelopes, documents, and a small black journal with Daniel's handwriting. Rachel opened the first envelope. It contained $50,000 in cash. Another had property papers, naming both Rachel and Linda as co-beneficiaries. Linda whispered, "Why would he keep all this hidden?" Then she opened the journal. The first page read, "I tried to fix what I broke. I'm saving everything for them. So when the truth comes, at least they'll have something left." As she flipped through, more entries revealed Daniel's torment, his guilt, his fear of being exposed, and his struggle to balance two families without destroying them. Rachel wiped her tears. "He wasn't a bad man, Linda. Just a weak one." Linda nodded slowly. "And now we're the ones left to clean up the pieces." Before leaving, Rachel handed Linda half of the envelopes. "He wanted both families to have this. Let's respect that, no matter what our hearts say," Linda agreed. But deep down, she knew. Money couldn't repair broken trust. 2 weeks later, Linda returned to Willow Creek. She hoped the truth would quietly fade, but small towns had long memories and fast tongues. It started when a neighbor spotted Rachel and Noah visiting Linda's house one afternoon. Within days, whispers spread across town. "Did you hear? Daniel Crawford had another wife. Poor Linda. And those kids." Soon, reporters appeared at her door. One even shouted, "Mrs. Crawford, how long did you know about your husband's double life?" Ethan, now back home, slammed the door in their faces. "They're vultures," he growled. Linda sighed. "We can't hide forever. Maybe it's time to tell our side." That night, she gathered her children. "Your father's mistakes don't define us," she said firmly. "We decide what kind of family we'll be now." Clara asked, "What about them, Rachel and Noah?" Linda looked her in the eye. "They're family too. Whether we like it or not, Daniel connected us." The next day, she gave a short interview to the local paper. She spoke calmly about forgiveness, truth, and rebuilding trust. Her honesty caught people off guard. Instead of judgment, many offered quiet support. But just when peace seemed near, a letter arrived in her mailbox, with no sender name. It read, "You think you know everything, Linda. But there's one more truth Daniel never told you." The letter had no signature, only a single address scribbled in pencil. Old Maple Road, Cabin. Linda debated for hours whether to go. Finally, curiosity won. She drove there the next morning. The cabin was small, tucked deep in the woods, its door half open. Inside, everything was covered in dust, except a single locked chest in the center of the room. She found a loose floorboard nearby, pried it open, and discovered a key. When she unlocked the chest, she froze. Inside were medical files, letters, and a DNA test. The paper read, "Noah Crawford, biological father, Daniel Crawford. Biological mother, Linda Crawford." Linda's eyes widened in disbelief. "What?" Then it hit her. Rachel wasn't Noah's biological mother. She'd been raising the child Daniel and Linda had unknowingly conceived during a time Daniel had claimed to be away on work. The room spun. Linda sat down, clutching the file. "He gave away our son." A soft knock startled her. Rachel stood at the door, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't know, Linda." He told me Noah was ours. I swear I didn't know." The two women sank to the floor, sobbing, broken, confused, and united in the same pain. Outside, the autumn wind howled through the trees, carrying the memory of a man whose lies had changed all their lives forever. As they left the cabin, Linda whispered, "He wanted us to find the truth. Maybe this is how we heal." When Linda returned home from the cabin, the world around her seemed unreal. The DNA file trembled in her hands as she sat at the kitchen table. The ticking clock was the only sound. Ethan entered, his face still cold from weeks of anger. "Mom, where were you?" he asked. Linda looked up, her voice trembling. "Ethan, you need to sit down. There's something you have to hear." He frowned but obeyed. Clara and Sophia soon joined, sensing something heavy in the air. Linda took a deep breath. "Do you remember Noah? Rachel's little boy?" Sophia nodded. "The one we met at the park?" "Yes," Linda whispered. He's your brother." The words hit the room like thunder. Ethan blinked in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" Linda pushed the papers toward him. "DNA results. He's mine. Daniel's and mine." "I never knew. Daniel must have given him away." Clara shook her head violently. "No, that's insane. Why would Dad do that?" Tears streamed down Linda's face. "Because he was drowning in his lies. Maybe he thought Rachel could give Noah the stable life he couldn't give us after all his secrets." Ethan stood up, pacing. "So he took our brother and gave him to another woman?" "How do you even forgive that?" Linda whispered. "You don't. You just learn to live with the pieces he left behind." Sophia hugged her tightly. "Mum, none of this is your fault." Ethan finally sat down, his anger melting into exhaustion. "What now?" Linda looked at her children with quiet determination. "Now, we stop letting the past control us. Noah deserves to know where he came from, and we deserve peace." The family sat together in silence, the weight of the truth settling between them. But this time, it didn't break them. It bound them closer, even through the pain. A week later, Linda called Rachel. "We need to talk. About Noah," she said softly. Rachel hesitated before agreeing to meet at a park near Denver. The autumn leaves painted the ground gold and red, just like the day Linda first met the boy. Noah ran ahead, laughing, unaware of the storm about to unfold. Linda knelt down as he approached. "Hey, Noah," she said gently. "Hi." He grinned, showing her his toy car. "Mum says you're our friend?" Linda smiled sadly. "Yes, sweetheart." "I am." Rachel sat down beside them, holding her breath. Linda turned to her and said quietly, "He deserves the truth someday." "Not now, but when he's ready." Rachel nodded, tears in her eyes. "I've been thinking the same thing. I'll tell him when he's older. He deserves to know you." Linda handed Rachel a small silver locket that once belonged to Daniel. Inside was a photo of him and Noah as a baby. "This should be his," Linda said. Noah ran back to them, holding a handful of leaves. "Look, a heart-shaped one." Both women smiled through tears. Before leaving, Rachel whispered, "You know, Linda, I used to think we were enemies. But maybe we were just two women trying to survive the same man's mistakes." Linda nodded softly. "And maybe, just maybe, we can do better than he did." They hugged, a quiet, fragile beginning to forgiveness neither had expected. When the truth about Noah eventually surfaced in Willow Creek, the town was once again buzzing. But this time, the tone was different. People spoke not with gossip, but with sympathy. Linda had faced the unimaginable and handled it with grace. One afternoon, the local pastor visited. "Linda," he said kindly, "you've shown this town what forgiveness looks like." You turned heartbreak into healing. She smiled faintly. I just did what I had to do to keep my family from falling apart. The community began to see her differently. Neighbors stopped whispering and started visiting again, bringing pies, flowers, even small notes that read things like, "You're stronger than most of us." Meanwhile, Ethan reconnected with his mother, helping her fix the old garden Daniel had once built. As they worked, he said quietly, "You were right, Mum. Anger just makes the wounds deeper." I want to be better. Clara found purpose volunteering at a local shelter, inspired by her mother's strength. And Sophia began writing a memoir, The Truth Between Two Families, to tell their story with honesty and compassion. Linda often sat in her garden at dusk, listening to the wind move through the trees. The pain was still there, but softer now, like a scar that no longer hurt to touch. Sometimes, she thought she could almost hear Daniel's voice, "I'm sorry." And though she never said it out loud, her heart whispered back, "I forgive you." Months later, Linda made a decision. She met with her lawyer to establish a trust fund, half for her children, half for Noah. "I want this money to do what Daniel couldn't," she told him. "To build bridges, not walls." The fund was named the Crawford Hope Foundation, dedicated to helping children from broken families find stability and education. At the launch event, Rachel stood beside her, holding Noah's hand. Ethan, Clara, and Sophia joined her on stage. The audience listened as Linda spoke. "We can't rewrite the past, but we can choose what kind of future we leave behind. This is for my husband, who lost his way, and for my children, every one of them, who found their strength through forgiveness." When the applause began, tears rolled down Linda's face. It wasn't about money or reputation anymore. It was about peace. Later, Noah tugged on her sleeve and asked, "Grandma Linda, can I come visit you in Willow Creek?" Her heart melted. "Of course, sweetheart." "I'd love that." Years later, Linda's home in Willow Creek looked alive again. Flowers in full bloom, laughter echoing from the porch. Ethan brought his kids every weekend. Clara lived nearby, and Sophia had published her book, which became a local bestseller. And every summer, Rachel and Noah visited. The boy, now 12, adored his Grandma Linda. He'd sit on her lap, asking questions about Daniel, about family, about love. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, Noah asked quietly, "Grandma, did you love Grandpa even after what he did?" Linda smiled, her eyes soft and distant. "Yes, Noah. Because love doesn't stop when people make mistakes. It changes, it hurts, but it teaches us who we really are." He nodded thoughtfully, resting his head on her shoulder. As she watched the sunset paint the sky in gold and rose, Linda whispered, "Thomas, we did it. We turned the pain into something beautiful." A gentle breeze brushed against her face, as if in answer. Life lesson. True love isn't about holding on to perfection. It's about forgiving the brokenness that makes us human. Sometimes the family you rebuild after the storm is stronger than the one you lost. End CTA for YouTube. If Linda's story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More real-life stories of family, love, and forgiveness are coming your way.